Good to see you again, Roy.
Hi.
And like we were joking, this isn't a Hollywood movie where it has to be the same clothes as the previous video. So we're all good. And this isn't the exact same T-shirt. It's the same kind, but not the same one.
Yeah,
So
I
with
bet.
that said,
You watched it, did you?
yeah, well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, you know.
Great.
I wish I could do that with my hair. You
You
just
could.
you could. So I always say this is one of my favorite questions. We're influenced through our whole journeys, sometimes in a minute by something somebody says at the right time, or sometimes through a lifetime. Can you share with us two or three people that have been influences in your life?
Yeah, I guess it was hard for me to think about this because there's so many people and so many different inputs into your life.
Sure.
But the first one's got to be my father, because he did everything in terms of getting us out of South Africa at a time where his life was wonderful there. And, the golf, the sun, the friends, servants, everything. And in 1960, to get us out of there because he didn't want to bring up 4 kids with the politics. And he's always been a very generous man. He worked and looked after the whole family in different ways. By family, I mean the bigger family.
Mm-hmm.
But he also had a work to live, not live to work ethic. So he didn't work in the evenings, he didn't work weekends, but he did really well. And he was an entrepreneur, he was innovative. He invented those lights that move with the steering wheel when you go around corners, which Citroen later took up. So he would be top of my list. And then later in my career, just a guy called John Harwood, who was my boss, the last guy who fired me out of the 29. And even so, he fired me because he was told to by his boss, and he didn't agree with it. And he said, "Roy, I'll make it up to you." And after he fired me, he spent the next 5 years opening his Rolodex and introducing me to people, which helped create my business, which became 100 million business. And John was one of those guys who, if he said, lie down in the road, there's no traffic coming, you did. You'd believe him. So, and the last thing with John that was a big influence was, I always noticed whenever somebody called and he said he'd call back because he was busy, he called back. Always. And if I called him, the same thing. And I've tried to follow that principle, because even, if you've got a PA and they keep getting called by somebody who's trying to hassle them or trying to get through to you, I just take over the call and say, "Look, I'm afraid I don't want to speak to you but thank you for calling." Polite, put it down, because then the PA doesn't have 10 calls of messing around and wasting her time and your time.
Right.
So small thing, but big influence. And the last one for me really is a mixture between sort of the Henry Ford, Steve Jobs School of Marketing, in where neither of them in theory are attributed with believing in market research, because the old phrase that Henry Ford was attributed with if people asked for what they would like, they wouldn't have asked for a faster horse. Or they would have asked for a faster horse.
Right.
Not a car. And Steve Jobs was the same, with his iPod. Nobody ever said they wanted a box with 1,000 songs in it. And both of those said, if you actually research those products, you wouldn't get to where you get. And with Lifebook and Lifetime Memoirs, it's exactly the same thing. People kind of know they would like to leave their legacy, but they don't know how, and they're a bit humble about, should I have a story about myself, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard. We're looking now at the moment at research. It's really hard to do research for something that people actually don't know what it is and haven't thought of doing it before.
Well, it's a great skill set of vision to be able to understand how it could be a benefit, how it could be a value when no one else does.
Yeah, I think that's it. You need to be able to put yourself in the place of what do other people need. Again, it's with anything, it's you find out what that need is. And at the moment, if you draw from what we're doing, the need is for less loneliness, i.e. and more self-worth and more engagement, and less sort of these issues that are affecting children and elder adults about loneliness and mental health issues. And a lot of the books that we do deal with, as I said before, survivor's guilt and the actual, should I be telling this story or not? So, yeah, I think that kind of are the main contributors to my life.
And John is still in your life, correct?
Very much so, yeah. He's 85. He's got a handshake like he's a butcher by trade, and he's a lovely guy.
Well, you know, I have a quote that it's probably my favorite quote of all time. Maya Angelou said, you may know this, she said, most people will forget what you've said, most people will forget what you've done, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And it really does relate to a lot of the stuff you're talking about too.
She's amazing, isn't she? I mean, I only came across her when I was doing my presentation on the value of legacy, and the last slide I use is a footprint in the sand, and it says her quote, "If you want to leave a legacy, leave a mark that won't be erased." And it's exactly what I'm trying to do with telling these stories.
Well, you're doing it, and it's making a difference. So thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it.
Not at all. Thank you.